Hello everyone, how you doing? How's it going everyone? Welcome back again to another Hack Week. Hi everyone, welcome back. It's so nice to see you. I think it's been a lot since I was here. I think time has been passing super slow, or I don't know. But yeah, hi everyone, welcome back here again to another Hack Week. Today we're on our data week. So if you're a fan of building dashboards or if you want to try for the first time like JavaScript or TypeScript and you have not ever touched this, like you come from a background of Python or R or Julia or some really data intensive programming language, this is going to be your stream. You're going to learn how to use front-end tools, and also going to learn fundamentals. There's going to be a three episodes track that we're going to be getting our hands on, so we can build this really cool dashboard with Next.js and with a lot of cool things that we're going to watch. But yeah, what do you think if we begin? So first of all, let me just share my screen. Give me just 1 minute so I can turn on my slides. But while I'm doing this, I want to hear you. I want to read you. Where are you watching us from? Like, where are you from? Like, are you watching us from India? Are you watching us from America? Are you watching us from uh, Pakistan? From Africa? From Europe? Uh, where are you from? Are you watching us from other parts of the world, or like is everyone from the same part of the globe? So yeah, let me just begin with this. Oh my God, Texas, California, Pac, Colorado persons here, India. How's the weather there? Like, how's the weather in California? Like, if you don't know me, I'm from Mexico. But here in Mexico, like, we're almost in hundreds. Yeah, like today we were in almost hundreds. So like we were in 97, I think 97, 90, 98, something like that. So like it's super hot, it's super sunny. Like I feel like I'm on hell, man. Like I don't know, like it's super hot down here. And I heard that it has been raining a lot in the US. But yeah, let me just begin with this. I think we're almost done. And let me know when you can see my screen. I think you should be watching it right now. See that we have person from New York. Yes, super sunny. From person from California. Also, we have a lot of US folks and Indian folks right here in the stream. So, welcome everyone. If this is your first stream with me, thanks so much for being here. I'm going to make my best so you can understand all the things that we're going to watch today. And if you have any questions, don't doubt in sending just um, your questions on the messages and the comments of the stream. I'm going to try to be as quick as possible with this so we can just get our hands on into the code and not to make a lot of theory of this. So oh my God, sunny and warm in Southern California. Like Southern California is San Diego. It's like yeah, I think San Isidro, San Diego, and things like that. So oh my God, super sunny and warm. Yeah, I feel you. We're on the same page here in Mexico. So yeah, let's just begin. So if you don't know me, welcome to the first workshop that you are going to be here with me. This is the first episode that we're going to be our hands-on on our create your first dashboard with Next.js on this global hack week data. So let me introduce myself. My name is David. You can call me David, David, however you want to say it. Like some persons call me Dave, some persons call me Lazaro. But yeah, I've been being a coach here in MLH like almost year and 2 3 months, something like that. But yeah, I've been here a long time. So I'm also a software developer engineer at AspenTech. We're like a software development company for a lot of industry of different industries like electricity industries, like petroleum industry, chemistry, and things like that. So yeah, we've been doing a lot since 80s or something like that. So basically, we do software for all those industries, and I mean, it's cool. I've been also working in communities as a GitHub campus expert. Um, I, I graduated like in December, so I'm not longer a campus expert. I'm something like an alumni. If you don't know what is a GitHub campus expert, totally encourage you to try to take a look into GitHub campus expert. If you're a student, if you're a student, if you want to develop a technology community in your school, in your college, in your university. It's a really cool opportunity to be with a lot of persons, with a lot of developers, and with this is for networking. It's a really cool networking opportunity. So if you want to give it a try, I'll totally encourage you. Try to apply to GitHub Campus Expert program. It's going to be open on August of this year, I think. So if you want to give it a try, please just I'm going to send you the link in a few minutes. But yeah, I like also hackathons. Hackathons are my things. I like organizing hackathons. I like helping Mexican developers or Mexican students to create their first hackathon. So if you are from Mexico and you want to develop your first hackathon on your university or college, just send me a message on LinkedIn. Next slides, I'm going to share my social media links. So if you want to contact me. So I have a hackathon on the north of Mexico in the state called Monterrey. So it is called Tigre Hacks. So I think this year we're not going to make Tigre Hacks, but hopefully next year we're going to make Tigre Hacks. Also was MLH Fellow at Meta at summer 2022 uh, in the production engineer batch. It was super fun. It was super good. If you don't know anything about the fellowship, I totally encourage you to take a look into the MLH Fellowship if you're a student. It's a really cool opportunity to earn some money and also to learn how to code and also to develop this networking with engineers from really great companies and to also to contribute to open source. So if you want to give it a try, totally do it. Try to do the research to the MLH Fellowship. And I'm currently building a tech startup, research tools, and more things that I cannot talk about. But yeah, let's just continue with this. Um, there you go. So if you want to contact me in any social media, here are my social media links. If you want to reach me on LinkedIn, if you want to send me a message, please send me a message on LinkedIn or on yeah, LinkedIn is like the most frequent social media that I use. And if you want to take a look into this repo, into the repo that we're going to be using today, or the repos that we have been using in the previous Go High weeks, take a look into the GitHub, my GitHub, and my repositories, so you can take a look into all the repos that we have been taking a look into. So yeah, what are we going to do today? So today we're going to be taking a look into the introduction of the fundamentals that we need to learn before touching anything like React or Vercel or Next.js. And we're also going to learn how to use JavaScript. We're going to learn how to use TypeScript, and we're going to learn a lot of things today, like what is React, what is Next.js, what is TypeScript, what is the difference between React and Next, basic CSS, basic JS, and a ECMAScript 6. Really cool project structure, good practices, Flexbox, Shatsin UI, how React manages the state, server-side components, client components, and more. This is like the whole structure of our course that we're going to be taking in this track. We're not going to be taking a look into all today. Today is going to be more focused on the fundamentals. So let's start with this. So first of all, what is React? So the React is a really cool, popular, and really nice JavaScript library for building user interfaces, particularly for web applications, developed and maintained by Facebook. And it is, I totally encourage you to take a look to the story of React. I think they have like a document of how React was created, and like the founders are super cool. I really like their conferences on JS camps and things like that. So it is super cool because the whole idea of React is building components that can dynamically update based on changes to data without the need to reload the entire page. So one of the React key features is this thing that we have been talking about the component-based architecture. So as you can see here, there's a lot of things that maybe that may look some kind of terrifying. Don't worry about it. We're going to handle all of that stuff. But yeah, pretty much it is a cool architecture that we use for generating UI that is composed of small reusable components that we can manage their own states. And this approach makes it easier to build complex UIs by breaking them down into smaller and more manageable pieces. So React uses something called virtual DOM or document object model to efficiently update the UI instead of directly manipulating the browser's DOM. React creates a lightweight representation of the DOM in memory and compares with the actual DOM to determine the minimal set of changes needed to update the UI. So, for example, if you have ever touched HTML or if you have not, don't worry about it. But as you can see here, this is like a simple hello world from React that we can take a look into. I know that there are a lot of things like the syntax may look some kind of complicated, but this is why we're going to learn all the fundamentals that we need to understand before touching any React code. We're going to learn how to use JavaScript, and after that, how to use TypeScript. So why are we going to use this? Because they are the React main languages. JavaScript is the primary language used for writing React applications. So React developers use JavaScript to create components, manage states, handle events, and all of that stuff. And TypeScript is like a superset of JavaScript that manages types and allows us to create better code that we can use for detect potential bugs, better tool support, and improve code reliability and maintainability. So it is better because we have like this not it is not Java, but it's something kind of similar that we use for building these kind of components. And also we're going to learn what is ECMAScript 6 because this is like the main structure that JavaScript has been using since a long time ago. But don't worry about it. Like ES6 is the short for ECMAScript 6. It is the sixth edition of ECMAScript standard, which is like the standard of the JavaScript language. There's like the standardization of how JavaScript should be written and how JavaScript should be built. So ES6 introduces a lot of new features to JavaScript that are super cool. We're going to take a look some minutes ago and some minutes feature. So the other thing that you need to understand is the key features introduced in this ES6 model is this things called R functions, the structuring, let let and cons, and more things that we're going to take a look just a few minutes. So yeah, let's just jump into moving our hands, start typing code, writing code. So let's first begin by learning um, some JS basics. So if you want, you can take a look into this repo that we have here. Let me just share the link right here on the chat. So if you want to open that replit, you can do it. If not, you can just open like Visual Studio Code, whatever you want to use. I'm going to use this because it is easier for me just opening this. So give me just 1 second to launching my tab. I think I already changed everything. And let me know if you are already here. I'm going to make a little bit of sound to this so we can take a better look into this. So I think this is better. Let me know if you can see this correctly or if you need me to zoom a little bit more into this. The link is right here on chat. If you want me to share it again, don't worry about it. Uh, okay. Give me 1 minute until I see this. Okay. Oh yeah. So yeah. Here's like the replit. Whatever you want. Oh yeah. Let me share again the link here. Um. There you go. So let me know when you are already here. If you don't have a Replit account, what Replit is going to ask you is to create a Replit account. And if you have never used Replit, it is like a virtual editor that you have on your browser that you can use on your browser. and it handles a lot of things that we don't care about, like managing packages or versions and things like that. Replit runs Linux machines inside of this VM, or like we can call it like replits. Inside of these replits, we have like a lot of stuff that it can help us. But the thing that we do need to understand now is the first step that you need to do is to create a replicate account. And after creating the replicate account, you're going to take to click here into fork and run. And after doing that, a replicate tab is going to be opened. So give me just 1 minute. Uh, uh, um, After opening that tab, you're going to see that you're going to have a lot of stuff going on right here. Don't worry about it. Like, I know that it seems like a lot. The only thing that you need to understand is that this is the whole set that I built for the workshop, so you can understand a little bit more about JavaScript and how JavaScript works, like all the fundamentals. If you can see here, like we have our IDE, or like our, well, I don't know if it is IDE, but here's our code editor that we have right here. And as you can see here, it looks a lot like Visual Studio Code or any other code editor that you have been using. So the only thing that you need to know now is that we're going to be starting to learn JavaScript by learning how variables are declared in JavaScript and how we can run actually our first hello world. So the first thing that we're going to do is getting into another um, file. And for creating a new file in Replit, the only thing that you need to do is to go here, check out this button called new file. You're going to click on it, and we're going to call it hello world.js. And our hello world is going to have our first hello world. If you come from a Python background, you can understand that this is like your first hello world that you do JavaScript. In JavaScript, I mean, on Python, on JavaScript, we do it a little bit different. What we do is that JavaScript, because it is original thing for the browser or for the web, um, we have something called console that if you go into any page like this Replit and you right click in some zone, like, I don't know, like this app, this this toolbar, like this dark toolbar, if you right click and click into inspect, you're going to see that the developer tools window is going to be open. Oh yeah, I think you're not seeing it. Sorry for that. But yeah, the only thing I'm going to trust you that you are taking a look into that. So as you can see here, you're going to well, as you can see on your computer, if you're using your computer, you're going to see that you like a tab is going to be open called elements, and those elements are going to be like the whole divs that you have on HTML. But there's also another tab called console. So JavaScript, this is the console that JavaScript is talking about. So yeah, I think you're not seeing it on the stream. I have a lot of tabs open, and I don't know which one is like the best way to show you this. So let me think about uh, developer dev tool. Let me show you a picture of it. So there you go. Alrighty. So yeah, as you can see here, we have like this console, this cool console that we have right here, and this should be like you should be seeing this anywhere on the web. If you right click into any part of the web and click into inspect and go to the console tab, you're going to see something like this. This is the console that JavaScript is talking about. And we use the console, or originally we use the console to try to print things or to show like errors or things that we care about in the process of using JavaScript for different applications. So yeah, this is the console that I'm talking about. But yeah, let me just go again into our Replit so we can print our first hello world. So okay, we're going to use our console, but how are we going to use it, or how are we going to print that? So it is super easy. The only thing that you need to type is console.log, and type inside of it hello world, and ta-da! Like you have your first hello world on JavaScript. So the question now is, okay, I have my JavaScript code, but how do I run my JavaScript code? So if you open your Replit, you're going to see probably something called console, but we're not going to use console. We're actually going to open a new tab and go and try to search for shell. So after you click shell, a new like a terminal is going to be opened, or yeah, like a new shell terminal is going to be open. And this is basically a Linux terminal or a Linux, yeah, like a Linux terminal. So if you want to use any Linux, if you have ever used Linux before, uh, if you execute any command like ls, you're going to take a look into all the files that we have into capital infinite subweb. That is the name of my replit. But the cool thing about this is that Replit helps us a lot into installing things um, before initializing like the whole project. Whenever we create a new Replit, there's this package JSON that we have already with all the specifications that we have. So whenever we start a new Replit, the package JSON or the npm install is going to be run, and you can create a Replit of whatever you want. You can create replits of Python, of TypeScript, of Node.js, etc., etc. Specifically, this one is a Node.js replit. So if you don't know what Node.js is, we're going to take a look into what Node.js is right now. So let me just search for Node.js into my browser so I can show you what Node.js is. So I think you are seeing it now. Is there a big difference between Replit and VS Code? No, actually, you can fork this Replit and like copy and paste whatever you want. I'm using Replit because we have different machines. Like we're a lot of persons, and we have a lot of machines. Some of us have Mac, some of us have Linux, some of us have Windows. There's a high probability that if we install Node.js inside of our machine, any of us, like at least one person, is going to have a problem with the version of their machine node version or dependencies versions problems that we're going to be facing. So we're using a homogenized. How can you say this? Uh, we're using only one environment that is Replit that has the same thing for all of us. So we're running the same Linux machine, we're running the same things at the same time. So we don't have any kind of problem with those dependencies or those versions of the things that we're installing. So this is the only reason why we're using Replit, to avoid any kind of problem with that. But yeah, if you want, you can just, if you have already noticed sound inside your machine and notice running correctly, you don't have any problems with Node, don't worry about it, give it a try. Yeah, thanks so much. Environment independent for everyone. Thanks so much, Industrialist. So, so yeah, if you don't know what Node.js is a free open source cross-platform runtime environment. So it allows us to run our JavaScript code. So JavaScript is not actually an interpreted, or I think it is interpreted language. Uh, 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 Oh yeah, actually, yeah, it is. JavaScript is not a compiled language; it is an interpreted language. So what does this mean? This means that we need an interpreter so we can actually translate our code to something that our computer understand and can actually run. So this interpreter is Node.js. Node.js is the interpreter that allows us to help or to give instructions to our computer, so our computer can send instructions to our browser or to any part of the computer that we're going to be using right now. So the cool thing about JavaScript is that Node.js is not the only interpreter that we have right now. Is it the one that we're going to be using currently? But like now in like more recent times, there are more interpreters that have been coming out of nowhere. Like there's one called Bon.js that it's supposed to be faster, like a whole time faster than Node.js and then Dinos.serve. That is another interpreter of JavaScript. So we're not using Bond today because Bond, I think, is still unstable in some parts. But for learning JavaScript, like for doing simple things like just JavaScript learning, I think is good. But yeah, today we're just going to use Node.js. We're not going to install anything. Thankfully, Replit has everything already installed for us. So going again to the question, how do we run this code? The only thing that we need to do is to type node and the name of our file. So we're going to type hello world.js. As you can see, we have our first hello world right here. So ta-da, congratulations, you have your first hello world on JavaScript. What a nice experience, right? Alrighty, so okay, we have created our first hello world. If you have any problems, please send comments on the comment section of the stream. If not, let's just continue with this. So as any other programming languages, we need to understand how can we declare variables in JavaScript, right? So there's one file on your replit that you have right here called variables.js, and like too long did read, it is full of a lot of examples of the kind of variables that we have on JavaScript. So the first question is, how do we actually call variables or declare variables on JavaScript? So the first thing that we can check out is something called bar. So bar is the way that we can declare variables in JavaScript. Like, I don't know, my name. This is going to be David. So we have three actual ways. For now, we're just going to understand two ones, let and bar. Why? Because cons didn't exist when JavaScript was created. Let was not. I think let didn't exist when JavaScript was created. It was integrated at ECMAScript 6. But yeah, like a way that you can declare variables in JavaScript is with bar, but it is not a good practice to actually use bar because something that we're going to learn in other module. But the only thing that you need to understand now is that bar and let do almost the same thing, but they differentiate from one thing that we're going to see on the future. For now, just understand that let is the cool guy that allows you to declare variables right now. But yeah, it is like the cool person. It is like the cool guy who invites you to your house to have some free pizza and to play video games. So yeah, we have let. And if you want to declare any kind of variable, you can do it. We have a lot of types in JavaScript. Well, not that much. Like thinking about like Java or other languages, we have pretty much a little, yeah, we don't have that much kind of data. We only have numbers, strings, booleans, undefined, null, symbols, objects, arrays, functions, and that's it. We only have 9 types. And as you can see, talking about variables, we just have three ones, like numbers, strings, and booleans. And if you want to run this, just again, run node, and we're on variables.js. And you're going to see that our console is printing a lot of stuff right here. You don't need to care a lot of this. The only thing that we're doing right here is to declare a bunch of data or variables right here and printing out with a not good format, but the best format that we can print on JavaScript for trying to show you how JavaScript handles this type of data or variables that we're kind of initializing. So yeah, I think it is. I think it's not that complicated. Like the only thing that you need to understand is like We use let for initializing a new variable. After that, we need to pass a name, and after that, like the value that is going to be storing that variable. So as you can see here, we have like um, integers, floating points, etc. But actually, JavaScript handles this data as numbers, no matter if it is a real, if it is a floating point, if it is a integer. Like we're handling all this stuff as the same kind of variables. Where they're both of them are numbers. And after that, the only thing that we do is to console log our variables with a kind of format. And after that, we take a look into strings, like how do we store strings and variables, and how can we concatenate the strings on JavaScript? We can do it like with a plus, like in Python, and again, just typing like our variables. And booleans, we treat booleans like Python too, like the only difference is that in Python we actually do true or false with the first letter capitalized. On JavaScript we do it like everything all lowercase, so don't worry about it. And yeah, pretty much booleans are like in any other programming languages that you have been taken a look before. And also, when we do not initialize a value inside any variable, this variable is going to be assigned as undefined because we don't have any kind of value here. So we're going to see some examples when we check to undefined. And other one that we have is null. So this is a lot of help for data structures. So if you love data structures and you want to use JavaScript for doing data structures, I encourage you to don't do it because it is complicated. It is complicated. I prefer to use Python, but if you want to, give it a try. Also, we have symbols. Symbols is a new type of variable that was inside of ECMAScript. And pretty much it is just a kind of way that we use for initializing something called symbols that we're going to see in the future. But for now, let's just skip symbols and let's just try to take a look into objects. If you come again from a Python background, um, objects, we also initialize them with the keyword let bar or cons. But for now, we're just doing let. And as you can see here, they're pretty much the same. Like we initialize them as the name of the variable or the field that is going to be inside of the object. And after that, the value that is going to be storing that variable or that field. So as you can see here, we have our object person, which has three fields: first name, last name, and age. And first name is storing a string called Alice. Last name is storing a string to called Smith, and the age is going to be 25. And after that, we're just printing that. And like in other programming languages, we also have arrays, which is a kind of it is a type of object. And thing that I don't like about JavaScript is that almost everything in JavaScript is an object. So uh, I'm reading the comments. Can the same project running through Node.js will work using Bond? Yeah, probably. Like probably is this going to be running? Not in all the cases, because I think, for example, like creating a server or like backend code, I think it takes different kind of tools because the tools that you're using, for example, like the libraries that you're using on, I don't know, an Express server is think for being done for Node.js, and actually, and Bun has their actual libraries like Marin. Yeah, like if you are using, for example, I know that Bun is like the interpreter, but there are some libraries that help Bun to run, for example, Angular code or React code or backend JavaScript code and things like that. But they are different from the Node.js libraries that are being used. So I think it should be refactored or modified in some minimum way. But I don't think that you need to do a lot, to be honest. So my answer would be it depends. But yeah. And VS Code is local programming language and more featured, better for bigger projects, better for version control and work. Yeah, yeah. To be honest, yeah. Uh, Replit is a really good tool if you want to collaborate, like for doing homeworks and things like that. Replit has a really cool community too. So if you want to take a look into like what people is doing on Replit, just take a look into all the repos that are being created by the community. It is super cool. I would encourage you to do it. But yeah, pretty much Replit, for example, like cases here in Lava Fabric is a great tool for having an environment, independent environment tool for everyone. So yeah, so okay, we were on a race, and I was telling you that I think that I don't like about JavaScript is like almost everything is an object. So for example, arrays are objects, functions are some kind of object, and objects are objects, and it is super weird. But yeah. Okay, let's just continue with this. So yeah, like in other programming languages, we have like just arrays that we can be using, and also we have functions that are like some other function that you have created, for example, on Python. And again, we can declare them as this, like I don't know, like say hello is equal to function is equal to this. Other way to try to describe this would be like I don't know, like function, um, say hola, and we pass this and console.log, and oh, it is the same thing. The only thing that we're doing here is that we're actually initializing an empty function that is going to return hello here, and this function is not returning anything. So if we want to print, for example, the difference is that if we print say hello right here, say hello is going to return us hello as this. But if we use function as this, as say hola, Sola is also going to do this, but it's not going to be storing the hello in any part. So for example, say hello is storing actually a string called hello, but this function is not returning anything. But we have a lot of ways to declare functions in JavaScript. So don't worry about it. We're going to take a look into that later. But yeah, pretty much is that. Like if you see here, we have function, hello, and the type of this function is actually function. And finally, we have dynamic typing, like the let keyword allows us to have, for example, variables that can change on the type of the value that we're going to be storing. So, for example, we have let variable that is storing a string called I am a string. But after that, we actually do variable is equal to 42. So this variable is equal to 42 actually means that, hey, I don't care if you have like any other value before. Now your value is going to be 42, no matter if you have any kind of value before. So as you can see here, like variable at the start was a string and it says I am a string and the type is a string. But after that, after modifying the type of value that is the storing variable, we are actually storing a number, like you can see it right here. So this is how we handle variables on JavaScript. If you have any question, please the comment section. Okay, let's just continue with this. Okay, so we have checked out variables, and let's just go a little bit faster right now. So if statements, okay, if statements. So if you come again from a Python background or something like that, if statements are handled the same way. For example, we have a variable called score right here that is 85. Let's just try to run this, and if you have like a console as messy as I have right here, how you can clear your terminal is just by typing clear, and ta-da, like your terminal is now empty. So now let's just try to run our if statement.js. So we're going to type node if statement.js, and ta-da, we have our logs right here. So it says you pass because it says, and why it says you pass? It says you pass because our score is actually greater than 75. But in JavaScript, we have some other cool things that we have. Like for example, like in other programming languages, we also have like our if block with our else block of code that it runs if the if doesn't works. Like if the score is greater or equal than 90, you're going um, to print excellent work. But if not, good job, but you can do better, right? The third example that we have is that we have multiple conditions with the else with else if. So this is something similar like the elif in Python, but instead of typing elif, we actually type else if, and we just pass the condition of the new if that we want to check out. So, for example, if the score is greater or equal to 90, we're going to log grade A. But if not, if it is greater than 80, it's going to be grade B. And if it is greater or equal than 70, we're going to pass grade C, and so on, so on, so on. So yeah, the only difference, like for example, with Python is that instead of typing elif, we do else if. And also we have nested if. We can have nested if as we want. And I think pretty much that's it. Like I think there's not much difference with the if that we have, and the operators are the same one like in other programming languages: greater or equal, less or equal, equal equal. And I think that you're going to check out today is something pretty interesting that we actually have on JavaScript called the triple equal. So what is this? So for example, let's just declare a new variable called let I don't know number of hackers. This is going to be 50, and let's just try to check out like um, string of hackers, and this is actually a 52. But what are we going to do, David? A cool thing that JavaScript handles is a triple condition, a triple equal. And what does that triple equals does is to ensure that the two variables that we are comparing are not actually equal, but are also the same type of data. So for example, number of hackers is a number, but a string of hackers is actually a string. So because they are not the same kind of data, this is going to be false. So if we do console.log, um, same kind of data, but if we do else, console.log, different. So this is a D and this is a B also. And yeah, let's just try to do the same one with the statement. And as we can see here, like the console has printed out different kind of data because they are not the same kind of data. They are different. Both of them are like one of them is a number, the other one is a string. But if we change these to again to a number, we can see that it is actually logging out same kind of data. So yeah, it is really interesting. Like we're using a triple equals. So remember triple equals is just for not also ensuring that they're like the same kind of value, but also that they are the kind of the same kind of data. Uh, for TypeScript versus JS, do you always have to explicitly declare the variable data type before assigning them, or can you assign them a variable and it will infer the variable data type based on its assignment? I think you can do it. Like you can avoid just trying to show up the type of data, but TypeScript ensures you, like for example, if you go to Visual Studio Code and you start a new TypeScript file and you type, I don't know, like let number of hackers is equal to 50, you're going to see that your code editor is going to throw some kind of red line or like red underline. of your in your like under your variable. It's going to say like, hey, like the number of hackers has a type, an inferior type of any or something like that. But we're going to see it just in a few minutes. Okay, so yeah, those were if statements. So let's jump into for loops. So like any other programming languages, we have also for loops right here. So like if you come from C++ or something like that, you're going to see that this is kind of similar. If you come from Python, it's kind of different because Python does something like for e in range, and we have 0 to, I don't know, to 10, and our range goes from 0 to 9, and so on and so on. This is kind of different. Right here on JavaScript, we actually do something called start like having two conditions, like two sections inside of our for loop. The first one is that we're going to initialize a variable like in Python that we say for I in range. Well, that I is this section. Like for I is going to start on one, and while I is uh, is less or equal than 5, we're going to increment in one our I variable. So when we do that, we're going to be logging out our number that we're on. So we're going to print from 1 to 5. And also we can use a for loop for printing out indexes in our array. So as we can see here, like we have console log that fruit and the fruit of the index that we are, and the condition just changes a little bit. Let me just do this console like a little bit so it doesn't look so terrible. So yeah, like what I was saying is like we can also iterate from arrays. This is not the only way. There are functions called for each that we can also use for iterating over an array. But like if we want to do more some stuff like I don't know, maybe make a bubble sort or something like that inside of our array. We want to access to our indexes. So pretty much the same theory. We initialize I from 0 because remember arrays start from 0, and while I is less than the length of roots, we're going to be incrementing in one our I variable, right? And we're going to and after that we're going to be printing all of the items of our array. And the other one is like the same thing. It's like the same example. We're just iterating and calculating like the sum of all the elements of our array. We have some functions for doing this, but this is an example. And again, if we want, for example, to print a matrix or something like that, or like a table or something, we can do it. We can have nested for loops like in other programming languages. And finally, this is an example of how we can use this for loop for reversing a string and to printing that. Alrighty, so let's just try to just do node for loop.js. And as you can see here, the same examples that we have been watching are running, like printing from 1 to 5, printing all the items inside fruits, the total sum of our array, and printing out the whole multiplications of from 1 to 5, but like printing out the whole table and reversing a string with a for loop. So again, it's like in other programming languages, we are doing like the same kind of stuff. But yeah, let's just jump into okay, we have watch for loop, we have okay, switch cases. Okay, so yeah, like in other programming languages, also we have switch cases, and it is like the same kind of stuff. The only thing that we do is first have like a variable called, for example, banana, and this variable is going to be inside a switch case block, and this switch is declared by saying switch. We open to parentheses, and inside of it we put the variable that we want to check out, and we have our cases. We have a case apple console, apple is red, case banana, banana is yellow, cherry is red, blah blah blah. And we do have like in other programming languages the break keyword that actually is help us to just jump around to the next block of code if we have found already like the case that we want. And this is another example, like the days of the week. If you can see here, like we're not using break right here for any of these cases because we want to use the same case for all the days from 1 to 5. We want to say that it is a weekday, but if we are from 0 to 6, we want to say that it is the weekend because Sundays, remember that weeks start from Sunday. So yeah, pretty much. I think that's it. And also we have the default block that is going to be running if we don't have or we don't receive any of the cases that we have right here, right? Like if we receive a value that is greater than 6, we're going to say, hey, you provide me an invalid date. That date doesn't exist. And yeah, pretty much like this is how we handle switch cases on JavaScript. This is another example of switch without a break, like the example that we saw up there with the days. And yeah, let's just move on into another stuff, like how we handle functions in JavaScript. So this, like it said, this is a basic function. Like I said before, we have a lot of ways to declare functions in JavaScript. This is one of them. Like for example, this declaring function grid, and it's going to print hello world. And if we call to grid, it's going to print inside our console the hello world message. Another example is doing the same thing, but with a string concatenation and saying, hello, Alice. And another one that we have is one with variables. We can have a lot of variables, and actually we can have, like in Python, also infinite arguments that we are not expecting to receive. So, or like we don't know how many arguments that we're going to be receiving. So JavaScript has something like that. We're going to see that on the feature. Don't worry about it. For now, just the only thing that you need to worry about is that uh, arguments, like in Python, can be initialized or can be not. Like for example, we have A and B, like right here. If we have like this A and B right here, we're going to watch that. Uh, we can implicit that they can be either numbers or they can be strings. So if we want to concatenate the strings, we can do it. If we want to add just two numbers, we can call them. But the problem is that we don't know which kind of types these two arguments are supposed to be. So that is why we're going to be using TypeScript. So yeah, pretty much the only thing that you need to worry about is that they can be initialized and they can be not, and we can add as many variables as we want to any of our functions. So another example is having a function where we are using a local variable, and this is where it gets interesting. So remember that I told you that let and bar are kind of the same, but they have like a little difference. This is called the scope. We're going to check out the scope later, but pretty much, I'm sorry, but yeah, pretty much we just declare an inside variable of the function called adult age, and this adult age is going to be 18, and our 18, our variable is adult age. We're going to check it out with the variable for the argument that we're receiving for a function called age. We're going to be comparing, and if age is greater or equal to adult age, we are going to return you're an adult, and if not, you're minor. And we're going to call the function of check age with the example of 20. So probably is going to say you're an adult. Another example that we have is appending to an array right here. Have a function called append to array, and we're going to pass the array and also the value that we want to append to the array. I think this is overkill. We can just do it by array.push. But anyway, it's just an example. Um, but yeah, pretty much. As you can see, also we have like recursive functions, like in other programming languages, we can actually call inside of this like the same function that we are inside. So we can use the recursiveness inside this function. So we can print out the factorial 5, for example. In this example, we are printing the factorial 5. So let me just open again the terminal, make it a little bit bigger, and click clear it out and do node. What is this functions? The just So as you can see here, we have all the functions running out and with all the console logs. Like we have the hello world, we have JS, we have hello Alice, the sum, the adult or minor example, the new array, and the factorial of 5. So pretty much that is how we handle functions on JavaScript. Oh my god, it is 7 p.m. Okay, so until now we have learned how to declare variables in JavaScript, how if statements work, how for loops work, and how functions work on JavaScript. We need to watch now how to take a look into the while loops that are right here. And what else? And the ECMAScript examples that we need to watch because these ones are the most important that we need to take a look into. So, okay, we have import example. Also, we are going to take a look into how to import data in JavaScript and how to export data in JavaScript too from models, from one model to another, and how to handle arrays and arrow functions. These ones, arrow functions and let bar and cons, are the most important. While loop, to be honest, is the same as the other languages. There's nothing that you need to worry about. So the cool thing is that you can take a look into the replit to just try to investigate a little bit more of the topic. To be honest, I'm going to skip this and how to export and import because it is better if we take a look of import and export on when we are already on React. And I'm going to jump into array and maps because this is important. This is one of the functions that we are going to be using the most when we're developing with React. So it is 7:02 p.m. So what do you think if we just have like 5 minutes or something like that to just drink water, go to the bathroom, or go for a cookie or something like that, go for an apple, and I'll see you in 5 minutes. Alrighty? Alrighty. And we're back. Let me just do this and this too. Okay, I think we're back. Alrighty. So let's just continue with this. Yeah, we were taking a look into array and maps, right? So, like in other programming languages, we have arrays, but the important thing is that here map we have something called a function called map. Map is actually going to run a function inside of for each one of the elements that we have inside of our array. So for example, we have another variable called squares. That squares is going to expect to receive something or is going to store something. What is going to store square? Okay, so let's try to take a look into what is this thing doing. So we're calling numbers, which is an array, and we're starting a new a new map call. And for each one of the elements, we're going to run a new function. This function retrieves the number that we're traversing through, and we're actually multiplying that number and doing the square of that number. We're multiplying that number by itself. So again, we're passing the array, which is numbers. Numbers have elements from 1 to 5, and for each one of the numbers that we have, we're going to call a new function that is going to receive that new number that we're traversing through. So for example, when we call for the first time, we're going to call to numbers and we're going to initialize a new map. This function is going to receive number, and at the first time is going to be 1. So we're going to say, okay, for this one, do the square of 1. So we're going to return that. Okay, so now we go to the next iteration, and now the new number is going to be 2, and now 2 is going to be squared. So now that 2 is going to be 4, and so on, so on, so on. And as you can see here, what are we going to be receiving is actually the same array, but with the square of each one of the elements of this array. And why is the same array? It is the same array because what we're doing is calling numbers. And remember, numbers is an array, an empty array like this. And for each number, we're saying like, hey, take this number and elevate it to the square. Okay, I'm doing that. And now I'm going to say to do the same thing for the next one, and now for the next one, and now for the next one, and now for the next one. 25. So basically it is that we're we're taking the same array that we already had, but now we're modifying the elements that we have inside that array. So I don't know if that is clear. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section. If not, let's see another example. What happens if I have another array called names, and I have Alice, Bob, Carol, and I want to make all of those names uppercase names? I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to store uppercase names as a new array of that is going to be having it's going to be storing the same elements that we have right here, but for each element that we have inside the array's names, we're going to call each one of the elements, and we're going to return name that to uppercase that is actually uppercase that name. So we're going to be receiving, or yeah, we're going to be logging out the new array that we have right here. And the cool thing is that we actually can do the same thing, but for objects. Remember, we have arrays, but we can store inside of arrays also having like an array of objects. So you can see here we have like 3 objects. We have an array of objects called users that each element stores an ID, a name, and an age. And what happens if I want to call, for example, the users array, and I want to execute map, and for each one of the users that I have inside here, I want to return just the name of the user. So I'm going to have a new array, but this new array is just going to return me, or just going to be storing just the name of each one of the users that we have right here. So again, we're just going to call users, and again, it is an empty array. And for each one of them, we're going to be doing, hey, for each element that we have, please just return me the object dot name, like this one. Okay, for the first object, to return me this name, that is Alice. All right, so I'm going to return Alice, and I'm going to continue on the same stuff for bot, and now for Carl. And ta-da, we have already our new array of objects of names of users, and we're going to be logging the same thing. So I think you have already like the idea of what are we doing for each one of these arrays that we have in the examples. So, oh my God, what did I did? Okay, yeah. So let's just try to clear up our console and just try to run node.array and map.js. And as you can see here, we have the example that I told you. We have like the squares of each one of the original numbers that we have right here. Then we have like the names in upper cases. Then we retrieve all the name of the users from the objects that we have right here. So now we have just the name, a new array with the name of the users. And we have some other two examples that we're not going to take a look into. If you want to dive into it, take a look into these two examples that we have right here. What I wanted to show you right now is arrow functions. Okay, so now that we have understand map, it is something cool that we can do right here with arrow functions. So we're going to do the same thing right here. So we have right here, our functions are a new thing that we can declare like a new function inside something that is going to be receiving like a basic function that we have been declaring before. So for example, if we have like this function like grid, we are going to have the first example is just a basic arrow function. And how we declare arrow function is with the syntax. And this is the actual arrow function that we're calling. So, okay, let's make this a little bit simpler. So what happens if I want to say something like const, say hello. Say hello is going to be storing something like hello. Say hello is going to be storing, do we have another say hello? We go say hello. Oh, do we have say hello? Oh yeah, we have. Okay, say hola. Say hola. And yeah, we actually need this. So give me just 1 second. I'm just trying to take a look if someone has any questions. Okay, seems like not. Just give me one little second until I search for something. Yeah, looks like we don't have anything. Alrighty. Yeah. So for example, say hola is going to the first equal is, remember, the one that if we didn't have this arrow function is the one that we use for just declaring what are we storing inside this variable. So we're going to say the same thing. Okay, say hola is going to be storing a new function that function is going to return hello. So say hola is going to return, is going to be storing this hello right here. I know that right now doesn't make any sense. Don't worry about it. It doesn't have to have any sense right now. But the thing is that this constant say hola is the same thing as saying say hola is equal to a new function that is an empty function that returns hello. It is the same thing. This function is returning us hello, and we're going to store that hello in hola. So hola is going to be a variable that is storing a string, and that string is hello. It is the same thing as the thing that we have right here, but it is, as you can see, it is simpler and it is cleaner, and it doesn't require us to have a lot of stuff right here. And we can reuse it with some cool ways in map. With the help of map, we can do some cool things. So alrighty, let's just continue with this. And in the same example, we have grid. So if we call hello world, we're going to be return. We're just going to be calling hello world, but we're not going to be storing anything. So basically, we are storing a function right here that is a void function. So we're not storing anything actually. So yeah, let's just continue with our function with parameters. This is an interesting part. Do you remember the same part that we had before, the add function? That function that we watch on the functions section. So it is the same thing. We have like functions, but we have parameters that we can receive as arguments right here. And as the example in functions, we can receive it right here inside this parenthesis part that we have right here. So imagine that there's a function right here, a function, and this function is going to be storing, is going to be getting or receiving two arguments, A and B. So it is the same thing. So again, we're just going to return a plus b. So add is going to store actually a number, and that number is going to be the result of a plus b. So yeah, let's continue with this with the next one. So singular our function with the implicit return. Yeah, this is the one that we watched before having like our brackets, the one with the say hola. It is the same example. We have multiply, but right here we're starting two arguments and we're directly returning or implicit returning the a times b um, result. So again, multiply is going to be storing a number, and that number is going to be the result of a times b, and we're going to be receiving two arguments. Those two arguments are a and b, and yeah, pretty much is that. We're going to call multiply, which is a constant that we're going to take a constant, take a look into constants after that, after this, sorry. And pretty much we are taking a look into multiply and we're passing 4 times 2 and we're going to have our product as 8. So we have the same thing here, our function with no parameters in our function maintaining the lexical this. And this is something more complicated if you want to take a dive into, go ahead. The example that I want to show you right now, it is how we can use our functions with actually another example like using map. So for example, let's imagine that we actually want to, um, we are going to add a new array of materials, and we have our materials hydrogen, helium, lithium, and beryllium, right? What happens if I want to do for each material that map, I want to say, hey, create a new R function that is going to return a console log that, or something like length of I don't know, like length of word is equal to um, something, right? And that something is the element that we are currently, right? So for each material inside of our materials array, I want to store the length of that of the material that we are currently traversing, right? Length of material. And this is going to be equal to material dot length. And I want to console log length of material. So let's just try to understand this a little bit more. Okay, so what are we doing right here? Okay, let me just tap this a little bit more, and this one's like this, and there you go. So, okay, again, we're just calling a map function inside of our materials array, and we're saying, hey, for each material, please open a new rm function that is going to be storing the material that we're currently traversing, and it's going to return something. That something is just a new function that we're going to be declaring inside here. So remember, this is a new call block because this is a function. So this function allows us to do some stuff inside this code block, like, for example, having the line of the material that we're currently traversing. And after that, we're uh, logging length of the material that we're currently traversing. So we can say something like, I don't know, console dot log length of materials, and that's it. So now let's just try to take a look into arrow functions.js. Node arrow functions.js. So there we go. We have the. Oh yeah, I think this is not going to be run because we actually have an example right here that is for a new timer. So I don't want this. I'm going to comment this. So don't worry about it. Okay, let me just show you again the material example. And there you go. We have the length of our material, right? We have hydrogen, we have helium, we have lithium, beryllium. And as you can see here, for each one of them, I console log like the length of each one of the words that are inside of our materials array. How array functions is better than function definitions? Array functions are created for like the oh, well, I mean, our functions don't have their own binding on this argument and super. There are some more advanced terms on JavaScript or more advanced topics. And the thing about the arrow function is that they cannot be used as constructors and also cannot use geo that are. I know that this sounds like a little bit complicated. It is. It is actually it is kind of complicated to understand. If you are initializing in JavaScript, the only thing that you need to understand is that this code is more readable for now, and it has its own process, like for doing this kind of stuff, instead of having like the whole function and all this stuff. This allows us to read more maintainable and readable code, and allows us to create better code in less lines, I would say. But yeah, like pretty much this is arrow functions. So after taking a look into our functions, if you want to read more about our functions, there's a really cool page that explains a little bit more about it. That is developed from Mozilla. And if you don't understand that, let me pass you a cool blog of Nathan Sebastian of FreeCodeCamp that I can pass you right here. So so yeah, pretty much if you want to take a look into that, just take a look more in depth of our functions. We're going to be using our functions for some things that we're going to be using inside of our dashboard. So for now, don't worry about that. Uh, yeah, for now, don't worry about it. We're just going to be using it until we're not going to be using it until we go into our dashboard. But it's important to understand that our functions are important for us for JavaScript in the future. We're going to be using them. So, but for now, don't worry. Okay, so yeah, finally, the one that I wanted to talk about is the actual part of the scopes and the different kind of variables that we have. So remember that at the start of the stream, we talk about variables, the how to initialize a variable in JavaScript, and we have three kind of different ways. We actually have three kind of ways to declare a variable. We have the three keywords that are var, let, and const. These three ones are the keywords for starting or initializing a new variable inside JavaScript. What is the main difference? The main difference of it is something called scope. The scope is where is accessible a variable and where is not. So for example, the scope of variable has a scope of, it has a global scope. So I can access this variable from wherever I want. So for example, uh, as you can see here, if I declare this variable called global var is equal to this is accessible globally, this is inside if block, right? So it doesn't matter if I'm out of that if block, I'm also a bit. like the variable is available outside of the block that it was declared. So in this if code, it is not that simple to understand like the complexity of this. But when we're talking about more complex things like making backing classes of users with credit cards or with things like that, if I can access globally to this variable, like for example, the variable that stores the number of my credit card, it is super dangerous. So it is not recommended or it's not a good practice to use bars for uh, for initializing a new variable. Like the replacement bar is let. And why is that? Because let has the same scope of has a scope where it was declared. So for example, let was declared right here inside this block, but if we if we try to do console log um, block scope let right here, we're going to have an error whenever we want to run this because we're not going to be available to we're not going to be allowed to have access to that let because this let is inside this if scope or this if block. So if we want to access that outside of the scope where it was declared, we're not going to be allowed to. So, and a cool thing is that, for example, mm, 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 let me take a look into, okay, I think there's not one here. But for example, if I declare a new variable called initial value, like 10, and if I do a new for initial value is equal to 0, and while initial value is greater than 5 plus plus, and I console the log of initial value, right? There you go. What will happen if I do console log initial value? And what would happen if I do the same thing right here, like right at the top of the for loop at the bottom of the for loop? Let's take a look into what are we actually doing with this. So let's do node let bar const.js. So as you can see here, we have our initial value that is 10. And after doing this, we have another scope called um, 0, 1, 2, 3. It should be equal here, right here. Yeah, there you go. So if we want to do this, like if we want to take a look into the scope of each one of them, as you can see here, we were allowed to change let from its initial value right here and its initial value right here, like 0. But the cool thing about let is that it has a scope. Like now that I have it right here, I have like allowed to get it, to modify the initial value because the scope is out of the for loop. But if I instead of that declared let initial value like this, and I wanted to do something similar, I'm going to get a different kind of value. Like this, the log initial value, like this. Like as you can see here, now that we actually added the let keyword, this let is storing the same scope of initial value inside of this for. So if this initial value is declared as 0 on this for loop, it is only going to start in 0 and is going to maintain its own value inside that for loop. When we go out of that for loop, the initial value that we had right here is going to maintain its value from 10. And if we go after the for loop, we're going to maintain our same value that what we have. So you can see it right here. We have first 10, then we iterate from 0 to 5, And after that, we print again our initial value that is 10. So I know that at first it's confusing. Don't worry about it. It is. But the thing that you need to understand is that bar and let, the difference is the scope where it's declared. Bar is accessible globally, and let is only accessible where the code was declared first. So yeah, let's just continue with this. The only thing that we need to check out now is cons. And what is the difference of cons? Cons as well has again its own scope. But the thing of cons is that it is immutable. It cannot be modified after that. So so yeah, if we do, for example, here, before cons is equal to hello, and we try to run this, we're going to have an error. Why is that? Is because we try to mute something that is immutable. Constant is not going to change any time. Constant is going to be something that is going to be the same value when it started and is going to be seeing the same value when the code finished. So if we try to change this, to change like the content of before const, we're going to receive this kind of error. And we use const a lot because in ECMAScript 6, we actually declare functions like, I don't know, like get all users, like this. And I will call something like get users from database, something like that. For example, it is an hypothetical case, but for example, um, this constant is actually saying like, hey, create a new function that actually returns to me all the users from the database that I have stored. So as you can see here, my function is never going to change. And that is why we use constant a lot. We use constant a lot because we don't want things to change inside of our code. We want to maintain our code secure and maintainable always. So that is why we use constant. Okay, so let me, sorry if you're hearing some, oh my God, my dog is coming nuts. Give me just 1 minute. Yeah, there you go. Now you're able to see me. Give me just 1 minute till I add my background, I think. There you go. Nice. Sorry for that. My camera died. I don't know why. But yeah, pretty much we have learned all the basics that we need to learn until now. So let me just return to my slides. Okay, so now that we have learned the fundamentals about JavaScript, we can learn now the fundamentals of TypeScript. I promise this is going to be quick. It is going to be as quick as I can do. So let me just pass you again the replit, and I'm going to show you the replit right here. So we can jump again super fast to TypeScript. There are just 4 files, if I'm correct. Yeah, pretty much. We having 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we have 4 files to check out, and the difference are super easy to check. So let me just open another replica I have right here. Let me go home and let me open the TypeScript one. So, okay, and and what happens if I do ts node uh, types.ts? Does it run? Yeah, ts node. Uh, 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 F1 examples, index.js. Okay. Yeah, it is running. Okay. Yeah, let me share my screen and let me know if you are able to get into this other replit that I just sent you. So we can jump into taking a look into JavaScript, into TypeScript, and the difference of JavaScript and TypeScript. So let me clear my console because it is a mess. Alrighty, and let's just go into index. Like I said, the first thing that you need to understand is that TypeScript is JavaScript with superpowers or with types. So you don't need to worry about a lot. So the only thing that you need to worry about is like how we're handling all the stuff. Like for example, when we're talking about JavaScript type system, remember that we just have numbers, booleans, and things like that, right? But there are some cases where we don't have inherit um, when we are assuming that, for example, something is a string or something is a number, and we don't actually know if that is true. So, for example, JavaScript is dynamically typed. This means that the type of variables is determined at runtime, and you can assign different types both to the same variable, like let or bar. But here in TypeScript, we have an error because these variable types are flexible, and we don't want to be flexible with TypeScript. We actually want to be more structured. We want to know what is going on with and what are we going to be receiving in functions, what are we going to be returning, and things like that. So, for example, let's just try to delete this with all these comments. And yeah, as I said, this flexibility can lead to unexpected behaviors and bugs, especially in larger applications where variables might get new values accidentally. So, like this, we want to calculate the length of x, but we don't actually know what x is. Like, we don't know if x is a string, if it is a number, if it is a boolean. We're assuming things. And because we're assuming things, we're assuming that we can actually return the function length when we don't actually know if the thing that we're going to be receiving is a string that can have the line function or an array or something like that that allows us to have the to call to the line function. So if we do console.log that calculate hello, okay, there's going to be no problem. If it is an array, there's not going to be any problem. But if we pass a number and we want to call to len, we're going to have problems with that. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to have those kind of problems. So let me just delete this. And now let's take a look into how TypeScript takes this problem and how it solves it. So TypeScript is stably typed. This means that you should specify types of variables, parameters, and return values at the same type of declaration. So for example, I have my TypeScript variable that is a string, and this string I, is storing actually a string. So you can see here that we have something new. We have these 2 points and the type of value that we are expecting to return. So for example, if I do ts bar is going to be equal to 10, immediately TypeScript is going to throw me an error. Like type number is not assignable to a string. So this is something that we weren't allowed to do on JavaScript. We were allowed to do in JavaScript, but here in TypeScript, we don't want to do that. We want to avoid these cases where we have our TS bar and we're trying to change IM screen to a 10, right? So how we handle this is by having these 2 points and specifying the type of value that is going to be storing this variable. So we're saying, hey, initialize a new variable called tsbar that is going to be in a string, and the value of that string is going to be I am in the string. Okay? Okay. So let's just continue with this. So TypeScript static typing helps catch errors and compile times before the code actually runs, which can significantly reduce the read time errors. And also for you as a developer, is going to make your life easier. It's going to make your life super easier because there are going to be some times where maybe you're going to have a typo or maybe you're not taking a look into what you're doing or things like that. So in those cases, having uh, catching this time of errors before the code runs helps you a lot to reduce the number of bugs that you're going to have inside your application. So for example, we have a new function called calculate TS length, and we're going to receive X, but in this case, we know that the thing that we're going to be expecting to receive as an argument is an actual string. So now that we have an actual string, we're going to have this, sorry, let me make this larger so you can understand what I'm saying. Yeah, what I'm saying is that we're going to have a new function called calculate as a string that is going to receive x, and this x is going to be the argument that we're receiving, and this argument we know, or we can assume that it's going to be a string. We know that it is a string because it is the type of value that we want to receive. And these other 2 points that we do after declaring the function like this, in this way, means the kind of or the type of value that we're going to be returning, or the type of value that this function is going to be returning. So for example, we know that we want to calculate the TS line, this is going to be in a string, but what we're going to return is actually a number. We're going to return that x dot line, and we know that line actually returns a number. Like here, a string that line is a number, returns the line of a string object. So this is the thing that we want to actually do. So for example, we have here on console log, calculate TS line of hello, and the output we know that is 5. So as you can see here, if we want to execute again the console log of the calculate TS line of an array, we're going to have an error that the argument type number is not assignable to the parameter of type string. So that's cool, right? We now have cleared out a lot of problems out of our bag. And if we want to do the same thing for a number, the same error is going to be shown. That number is not assignable to the type string. So now we can just continue with this. So if we do an additional TypeScript features related, we're going to take a look into that we have some new stuff right here. Like now we have nums, and also we have like interfaces, and also we have some other stuff like having generics and more stuff that we are going to take like later. But this is cool because now we are seeing like in general what is new in TypeScript, like comparing it with JavaScript. So yeah, pretty much we have new things like nums, like interfaces, like having like the super of generics, and more stuff like this thing that seems kind of weird, but it's basically like the type of value that this identity is going to be. So yeah, the summary is that the type system in JavaScript is flexible but prone to runtime errors, which make it suitable for quick scripting and small projects. But TypeScript is robust and it enforces strict typing rules, making it ideal for larger and more complex applications where maintainability is crucial, like projects in React. And okay, now that we have seen that, let's take a look into how interfaces work on TypeScript. So interfaces are basically saying, okay, I'm going to have an object, but I want to say which, for this object, for example, user, I want to understand which fields can or cannot or can conditionally be inside my user object. Like for example, let's suppose that we're on an hospital or something like that, or we are just retrieving information from users. I can ask, for example, the name of my user, and I'll know that my name is going to be in a string. But for example, there's a person with that maintain a lot of privacy with their age. So for example, age can be and cannot. So this question mark indicates that property is optional. So my interface user indicates that, hey, a user can have a name there's in, and that field name is going to be in a string. It can conditionally have or not have an age, and this age is going to be a number. And finally, my user also is going to be having a grid function that is going to be returning a string. And this method is called method signature. What we're saying here is, hey, there's going to be a function called grid, and this grid is going to be returning the string. If, for example, this function instead of being grid is called add or something like that, and we do something like we're going to return a number, and we're going to have like a comma b, we know that both of these ones are going to be numbers, right? So we're going to add number to each one of them. So now we know like, hey, there's going to exist inside the interface user a function called add, and it's going to be receiving two arguments called A and B. Both of them are numbers, and what we're going to return with our function is going to be a number. We're going to return a number. So you can see here, it is hardly typed. It is super strict with like the types that we're managing. And it is strict because when we are managing super large super large code bases, it is super important to know this stuff like what are we receiving, what are we returning, can it conditionally be? Sometimes it is complicated, I know, but it's better to invest this time thinking about like our application can be scaling a lot. So, for example, this interface. Oh yeah, and another thing, interfaces can be extendable or can be implemented. So, for example, we have a class employee that implements the user interface, and we have a constructor right here. So, for example, we have a public name that we know that it's in a string, and we also have a public age that is a number, and we actually have agreed a function that returns hello, my name is, and my name, right? And we do the same thing. We call to the new employee class. We pass the two arguments that are John, and we have also the age 30. And if we do console log that employee that greet, we have hello, my name is John. So interfaces can also be used to define shape of function types. These are some more complicated things that I'm not going to take a look into now because you don't need to worry about it. Like these are something called TypeScript gymnastics, but don't worry about it. Like until now, we're not going to take a look into it because we're not going to be using it now in this class. And also, we have just 5 minutes, and we need to actually finish this. So let's talk about enums. So enums allows us to define a group of named constants, providing reliability and maintainability code that could be otherwise using use magic numbers, right? So for example, if we have a direction like up is equal to 0, down 1, left 2, and right 3, and this can be used to make code more descriptive and less error prone. So for example, if we have, I don't know, switch, for example, we have a function called move in a video game, and we have a direction that we know that is can be a type of any of these ones. It can be up, down, left, and right. So if we have like his direction that up, we know that the console log is going to be moving up. But if we receive direction that down, it's going to be moving down, and so on, so on, so on for each one of this. And also, enums can also have set or start from a different number or have a string values instead of numerical. So if we have in the status code, for example, we have an enum of the status code. We have not found, success, accepted, bad request, and so on, so on. And for example, if we want to print status code that not found, we know that the thing that is going to be returned is going to be a 404. And this is cool for when we are trying to have more readable code in backend project structure or code bases. So for example, if we have file permissions, we know that read is going to be read, write, and execute. So we have an enum to declare the kind of possible file permissions that we can have. So if we do console log that permission to read, we're going to have read as an output. So the summary is that enums are particularly useful when dealing with set of related constants and can help to avoid errors like typos or out of range values. They make the code more readable and organized and are integrated into TypeScript as a way to enhance JavaScript abilities. So the final example that we're going to take a look is the Formula One race simulation in TypeScript. So remember, we have an enum. So we have an enum that is originally started with 0, then 1, 2. So we have 0, 1, 2, blah, 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 blah. And we also have an interface of the Formula One car with all the fields that it's going to have. So we know that our Formula One car is going to have a driver name, current lap, max speed, status, and it's going to have 4 functions. The first one is race, pit stop, retire, and finish. So then now we're going to declare a new class. This class is going to be called F1 car that is going to implement the Formula One car interface, this one that we have right here. And now we're going to declare some new functions that are going to be inside of our F1 class, like current lab and the status. Current lab is going to be a number that is going to be equal to 0, and current and the status is going to be a car status, and it's going to be starting as racing, like this, like the 0. And on our constructor, we have our driver name and we have our max speed, like here. And remember, the current lab that we have right here is also initialized, and also it's going to be initialize our status right here. But the things that we are going to be that can be changing are the driver name and the max speed of the driver. So now we initialize a new function called race. So this new function is going to be adding a new current lab, and is going to log inside. I don't know. Um, Checo Perez is racing current lap one speed 80 200 kilometers per hour. And if the lap is greater or equal than 58, that means that the race is going to finish, right? And the finish the race is going to have this status, and we're going to change the status of the car to finish, and we're going to log to the driver has finished the race, and also we have retire, and retire is going to change our status to retired, and our pit stop is going to change our status to pit stop, and we're going to log that we're on a pit stop, like Checo Perez is in the pit stop, and now we're going to have a time out that we're going to have our driver after the timeout, we're going to have our log of hey, Chico Perez is back to racing. Anyway, if you want to take a look into this example a little bit more, you can take a look. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. It is almost 8 p.m. and I need to go. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you have to learn a lot. Thank you so much for being here. Faron, it's so nice to see you. It's so nice to see you again. I haven't seen you since 1 month. And we have a lot of, can you provide your social identity? Yeah, yeah, I can share you my screen, my socials in a minute. You have it right here. Give me 1 minute. There you go. So these are my socials. If you want to contact me in any of my socials, you can contact me in any of them. And wow. Okay, we have some questions that I cannot answer to like right now, but I promise that I'm going to answer it when I have time of like on the next stream. Thank you so much for being here. One Mountain, Industrial Screen, Joshi, Joseph, and Roll Trials. So thanks so much. I'll see you tomorrow on the part 2 of this stream, and I'll see you there. Thanks so much, and see you later. Bye.